So now I'm going to show you how to do the bent over row, which is the king of all rows. This may be hard for a lot of people who have back problems or who just don't like being bent over for too long, myself included. That's okay. You can still do the bent over row. In fact, you should, because it's going to be good for developing your erector spinae, which are your spinal erector muscles that help to erect and stabilize the spine, and your lower back muscles. The key with the bent over row is that you don't want to do it for too long. So with seated cable row, supported row where you're, have some pads against your chest, you can do those for 20, 25 reps. But with the bent over row, 8 to 12 reps or so is good, okay? I'm going to show you, just in case you're new, how to do one with an easy bar. I like doing it with a supinated grip, even if I'm not using an easy bar, but this will be an easy way to start, okay? So I'm doing this with 110, I'll do it sometimes with 125, 135, something like that. I don't go too heavy with it because I like to get 10 to 12 reps, and I like to get them done slowly with an amazing contraction. So, what you don't want to do is put a lot of weight on the bar and then start going like this. And I've even seen people who load weight on the bar and then literally bounce it against the floor, especially if there's these pads on the floor for dropping weight onto. They'll just bounce it. Don't do that, okay? You want it to be slow and methodical. So watch how I row this. Okay, now first when I'm picking it up off the floor, I'm going to be bent over too much. What you want to do is be bent like that. You want to pull it till it touches your belly. And hold it at the top. Get that contraction and squeeze it. Good. What you can do when you're adding more weight, you're using a different bar, when you're using the bars that you load with the Olympic plates, you can actually set the bar down between reps. Okay, so when I'm using 125 or more, up to 150, I do it in the squat rack, where I can set up the rack real low, and where my hands go down at the bottom is exactly where I will set the bar from a split second between every rep. So I'll row it, set it down for a second, row it up, set it down. And this will prevent you from straining your back. If you have back problems, and you get low back pain or anything like that when you're bent over for too long, you can do it with the rest in between every rep, and that's actually called a pendulum row. So that's my preferred row for any time I'm going, over like 120, 125 pounds. So to do my heavy bent over rowing, which today I'm doing at 165, I'm going to be using wrist straps so that my grip is not the limiting factor. I'm also using a weight belt for my low back to make sure my low back is not the limiting factor and doesn't get hurt. So I'm going to wrap these around real tight, and I'm going to go for 6 reps, maybe 7 or so, if I'm lucky. Also, you can do what I'm doing and do it from a rack, alright? Rack rows are fine on the lowest rung. You're more prone to injuring yourself if you're pulling it off of the floor, so that's why I'm doing mine off of the rack. Six good reps, plus a 7 that I got almost all the way to my stomach. But I noticed how the form was good on every rep. I was not throwing myself upward to gain momentum and thrust it up. I wasn't bouncing it off of the rack or bouncing it off of the ground. Okay, if you're going so heavy that you have to do that to get it up, you're not actually working the target muscle anymore, and that's a sign you're going too heavy. Okay, you need to be targeting the back, not the low back and hips, you know. And this shouldn't be part pushing movement with you pushing it down so that it will then hit the ground really hard and bounce back at you. All right, you need to have a controlled back targeted row, just like I was doing. Okay, and when I couldn't get it up to my stomach anymore, that was it. All right, on my 7th rep, couldn't get it up to my stomach anymore. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get 8, because 8 I did last week at 155. So this week I'm doing 6 or 7 at 165. All right, when your form starts to break down, that is a sign that you are reaching failure and that the weight is now too much for you. Okay, and if you can't do at least 6 reps with good form, that weight is too much. Right? So just make sure that's the form you are using whenever you are doing bent over rows, even heavy. A very popular cable row is the close grip row. It's also a type of row that I love. However, I see a lot of people doing this with close grip and a restricted movement. So you have to be aware of how having a close grip can tend to restrict your movement if you're not paying attention to what you're doing and trying to make sure you're using optimal form. So what I see is a lot of people using close grip like this, and they, you know, they're just going like that, or maybe putting too much back into it. Okay? I'm not feeling my back doing much work there. Alright? So the challenge is with a close grip, still getting that full contraction, since you're not able to bring your arms back here to your rib cage where you would if you were pulling on a bar or dumbbells or using 2 independent cables. Okay, that makes it easy to get a full contraction. Okay, but when your hands are here, you have to really try to pull your shoulders back, retract the scapula. Okay, if you're leaving that part out, you're leaving out the most important part of the movement, the full contraction. Okay, if it's challenging for you to do that with a very close grip like this, you know, you can use a close grip that is a bit wider. You know, they make them wider than this. This is the closest grip that they have here. So I wanted to use this one to show you how to do this while your hands are together. Okay, so to optimize the form on the close grip row, obviously at the bottom, your shoulders can go forward. Okay, your back can go forward. All right, and you can incorporate some movement here with it, but you do not want to have there be momentum. Okay, that's too much. All right, you don't want to lean back so much that you're now rowing diagonally and rowing with momentum caused from that. Okay, so only a little bit of low back movement. It's more about pulling. Okay, and you want to pull down. Okay, not up high like this. Okay, or even here. Pull down the bottom of your rib cage and your belly. Okay, almost down. The bottom should be almost to your belly button. And bring those shoulders back. And retract your scapula. And pause at the top when you fully contracted. So this close grip is mainly for targeting the traps. Okay? That's where you're pulling, and that's why you want to retract your scapula fully, because otherwise it's not going to work the traps as much. Okay? It's that full retraction back here where you're actually rotating your rotator cuff a little bit. It gets you to work these lower traps. Okay, so that's a great way to hit the low traps, but you have to be rowing in alignment with the low traps. Okay, if you're going like this, it's going to be more of a rear delt row. Okay, make sure you're rolling down here to get the lower portion of the traps. Okay, rather than the rear delts and the upper traps. Notice how when I'm here, when I go like that, that's what you want to practice. Okay, before even doing this movement, practice putting your hands together here and then just retracting your scapula, okay, by rotating your shoulders back using the rotator cuff. And a good way to practice this with weight would be to take two grips, if you can find ones with a cloth attachment that is a bit long so that you can separate them a little at the bottom. They look like this, okay? So if I had two of these, I could pull with them together until here, right? And then I can go like that at the bottom. There's not another one here in the vicinity, but you get what I mean, that they will be able to come apart like this as I pull like that, okay? So that's a great way to condition your body to be able to row, you know, more weight with a close grip and still be able to bring your shoulders back and bring your shoulder blades together. So just practice bringing your shoulder blades together and getting that full contraction, because that's how you're going to condition your traps to get them to be, you know, not only stronger, but to, you know, show through to get more muscular. Okay, so as long as you're doing the close grip row with that optimal form, making sure to get that full contraction at the top, it's an excellent row to do. Just make sure you're using lighter weight, higher reps, and good form on every repetition. One of my favorite machines and back exercises is the high row. The high row is a diagonal movement, so it's in between the vertical pulling down motions and the horizontal pulling movements. So while the pull downs target the lats and the horizontal pulls target the mid-back, the traps, the diagonal pulling seems to work them all just about evenly. And so it's a really great exercise to do. It can be done through any rep range. I'm going to show you a couple varieties of it. All right, but I love doing it on the machine where it's a completely fixed motion because it's easiest and it's perfectly ergonomical and really good for targeting. You just have to make sure you're actually doing the fixed motion. Okay, I see some people going like this. You're leaning back away from the pad. Don't do that. Just stay in the movement that you're supposed to. And you'll see how this works the back very evenly. And you want to set the seat down so that when you're sitting in it, there's tension, okay? So I have to come up off the seat to set the weight down. When I'm sitting down, I'm getting fully stretched out. And then you want to pull until you get a full contraction. All right, go from full stretch to full contraction. And take it nice and slow. So when you stick to that fixed motion, you can get an amazing contraction. And holding it for a moment, I really feel a great squeeze back there, like I don't really feel with a lot of back exercises. So that's one of the reasons why this is one of my favorite machines.